She kept asking me if I'd still love her if she changed her name, moved states, and never explained why. I thought it was a TikTok joke until a letter from Arizona DMV came addressed to Isabel W. Coleman. Her name isn't Isabel, and she's never been to Arizona. Or so she said. My name's Daniel, I'm 30, and up until a few months ago, I thought my girlfriend Samantha was just a little quirky. Harmlessly quirky. She liked those "would you still love me if" TikToks. Those dumb hypothetical questions couples ask each other to prove how deep their love goes. I'd be half watching a movie, and she'd turn to me and go, "Would you still love me if I had no teeth? Would you still love me if I shaved my head and only wore purple?" I'd always play along. That was her thing. But one night, it changed. We were lying in bed, lights off, and she mumbled it almost like a dream. "Would you still love me if I changed my name, moved states, and never explained why?" I chuckled and said, "You've been watching too much TikTok." She didn't laugh. She just stared at the ceiling and said softly, "Just curious." I thought nothing of it at first. People ask weird questions when they're bored or anxious. And Sam had always been a bit on edge when it came to the past. She never liked talking about her hometown, skipped family events, and kept her photo albums locked up in a plastic bin under the bed. But I figured maybe she had some tough stuff growing up. Abuse, maybe. I didn't push. But then the question came up again. At dinner. In the car. One time while folding laundry, she asked, "Would you still love me if I wasn't who you thought I was?" I gave the usual shrug and said, "As long as you're not secretly a serial killer, I think I'll survive." Again, no laugh. Just a blank look. She said, "Right. That'd be bad." At this point, I started paying closer attention. And then something weird happened. It was a Tuesday. I remember because I always work from home Tuesdays, and Sam had gone to run errands. Around noon, I went down to check the mail and found a white envelope addressed to Isabel W. Coleman at our address. Same apartment. Same street. Never heard the name before in my life. The envelope was from the Arizona Department of Transportation, Motor Vehicle Division. That was the first red flag. Sam had told me she grew up in Nebraska, then moved to Colorado Springs for college, where we eventually met. As far as I knew, she'd never even been to Arizona. I brought the envelope inside and tossed it on the counter. When she came home an hour later, she saw it, paused, then picked it up with 2 fingers like it was covered in something gross. "Oh, weird. That's not mine. Probably a mistake," she said. I raised an eyebrow. "But it's our address." "Probably the last tenant," she said too quickly. "You know how slow government stuff is." She crumpled it and dropped it into the trash. That night, when she was asleep, I pulled it back out. Inside was a confirmation notice from Arizona DMV. The form read, "Name change confirmation, legal name change to Isabel W. Coleman. Address on file, our exact address. Effective date, 8 months ago." I stared at it for a long time. Samantha and I had moved into this apartment together 9 months ago. The date on that form was exactly 1 month after we moved in. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I wanted to be sure I wasn't misreading something. The next day while she was out, I searched through her drawer for anything with that name. Isabel. Nothing. But in one of her old college notebooks, scribbled on the back cover, was a name and number. Isabel, for 80, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. It was her handwriting. No doubt. The same slanted R's. The same weird lowercase e she always did when writing fast. I Googled the name Isabel W. Coleman. Only one real hit came up. A Facebook profile, no profile pic, barely any info. But the account had posted a single image back in 2020. A selfie. Of her. Samantha. Different hair color. Slightly younger. But definitely her. She had no friends listed, no bio, no visible comments. The profile hadn't been touched in years. That night, I brought up Arizona casually. "Ever been?" She didn't look up from her phone. "Nope. Hot and dusty. Not my thing." I wanted to ask why the DMV there thought she lived in our apartment under a different name, but I knew I had to go slow. Something about the look on her face when she saw that letter told me she was hiding something. And it wasn't small. The next few days felt like walking around a room full of gas with a match in my pocket. I couldn't shake the feeling that the person I lived with, ate dinner with, slept next to, kissed goodbye every morning, wasn't real. Or at least not entirely. Samantha was still acting normal. Maybe a little more affectionate than usual. She brought home Thai food one night, poured me a drink, and sat on my lap while we watched a show. I noticed she kept glancing at my phone screen when I texted. That's when it hit me. She might already be suspicious that I knew something. So I started being careful. The next day, while she was at work, I searched the junk drawer where we kept old bills, random USB drives, and takeout menus. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for, but I found a receipt wedged between some old birthday cards. It was folded twice and faded, but still legible. It was from a hotel in Tempe, Arizona. Room 204. 2 nights. Check-in date, March 7th, 2021. That was 3 months before Samantha and I met. She had told me she was living in Denver at that time, working at a local bakery, trying to finish her associate degree. She never once mentioned a trip to Arizona. And more importantly, why the lie? Why leave out something so specific? Now I had 2 facts I couldn't ignore. A legal document connecting her to the name Isabel W. Coleman. A hotel receipt from Arizona, despite her claiming she's never set foot in the state. That night, I asked casually, "Hey, didn't you say you were in Denver all of early 2021? She nodded without missing a beat. "Yeah. What? No reason. I was just thinking about that place you said you used to get cinnamon rolls from. Was that near campus or where you lived?" She blinked, then gave a vague answer about how it was near the old apartment. But she didn't name it. Or the street. She couldn't remember the bakery's name either, just said, "I think it was something with sugar in it." Samantha had a photographic memory when it came to desserts. She remembered the exact cake I bought her on our 3rd date down to the icing swirl. But now, suddenly, she couldn't recall where she bought her favorite cinnamon roll every morning. It didn't add up. That night, when she was asleep, I used her laptop. She kept it mostly locked, but I knew the password. It was our anniversary date, ironically. I searched her saved profiles and browser history. Most of it was clean, but buried under a bunch of open Amazon tabs, I found one Gmail account I didn't recognize. It wasn't the email she used for bills or streaming. It was under the name IWC. Isabel W. Coleman. I clicked into the profile and found 2 saved drafts. One was titled, "I thought we agreed no more contact." The body of the message was just a name, Jason W. And below it, "This isn't fair. You promised to leave it alone." That name meant nothing to me at the time, but I saved a screenshot just in case. The next morning, I said nothing, but I started researching private investigators. I found a guy named Marcus Hale, quiet, professional, no weird vibe. We met at a diner 2 towns over. I told him the truth. I showed him the letter from the DMV, the Facebook screenshot, the hotel receipt, and the name from the draft email. He didn't flinch, just nodded and asked if I had her birth date. I did. Marcus said he'd need 5 to 7 days. I told Samantha I had a work retreat in Fort Collins over the weekend. She seemed a little too relaxed about it. Maybe she thought whatever she was hiding had blown over. That weekend, while she thought I was 2 hours north, I stayed with my friend Jacob across town and waited for the PI's call. He called me Monday morning at 9:43 a.m. sharp. His first words were, "Daniel, you need to sit down. Here's what Marcus found. Samantha Wells didn't exist before 2021. Not legally, anyway. Her social security number was issued in late 2020. That's not normal. Most people get theirs at birth or when they enter the workforce. But Isabel Whitaker Coleman? That name had a full paper trail. She was born in 1994 in Flagstaff, Arizona. Graduated high school in 2012. Attended Northern Arizona University for 2 years. She had a brief stint at a dental tech school before dropping out. In 2018, she was engaged to a man named Jason Whitaker. No relation, just a weird coincidence in the last name. And then, in December 2020, Jason disappeared. Police report shows Isabel was the last person to see him. She claimed they had an argument, that he stormed out and never came back. There was no sign of foul play. No body. No evidence. Just a missing person. She wasn't charged, but she was flagged as a person of interest. Marcus ended the call with a chilling line. "I don't know what happened to Jason, but your girlfriend vanished right after the investigation stalled, and she reappeared in Colorado as someone new." I sat on the edge of the bed staring at my hands. This woman had moved into my apartment, worn my hoodie, held my mother's hand at dinner, talked about baby names, and I didn't even know her real name. That night, I went home. She greeted me at the door, arms wide open. "Welcome back," she said cheerfully. "How was the retreat?" I stared at her like I was meeting a stranger. She tilted her head. "You okay?" "I have a question," I said. "Sure. Who's Jason?" She froze. Then, like flipping a switch, she dropped her arms, closed the front door slowly, and sat down on the edge of the couch like she was bracing for impact. "I was going to tell you," she said softly. "When? I don't know. I was scared. You were the first person who ever felt safe. You lied about your name. About Arizona. About everything." She looked up at me, eyes filled with something between defiance and desperation. "He wasn't who you think. He hurt me. He scared me. I had to leave. The police didn't believe me. They said I needed more proof. So I left. I became someone else. Someone I liked better." My stomach turned. Her voice was calm, measured, like she'd rehearsed it. "Why didn't you ever mention him? I didn't want to lose you. You lied to me every day." She stared at me and said, "But I loved you every day too." That line didn't feel like an apology. It felt like a deflection. Like she believed the lie could be balanced out by affection. I didn't sleep at home that night. I told her I needed air and left. She didn't chase me, didn't call. But when I checked my phone an hour later, I saw a new text from an unknown number. It read, "Isabel, you promised. Why are you back in the records?" And that's when I knew someone else was still watching her. And I wasn't the only one with questions. The message stayed on my screen for a long time. "Isabel, you promised. Why are you back in the records?" No name, no context, no follow-up. I didn't respond. I didn't tell Samantha either. I didn't even sleep that night. I just sat at Jacob's kitchen counter while the city outside went dark, reading that one line over and over. By morning, I had made up my mind. If Samantha, or Isabel, was lying about Arizona, about her name, and about this Jason guy, then someone had to know the truth. Someone other than me. Someone who'd been closer to Jason. Who remembered when he disappeared. So I started with the most obvious place, social media. I went back to that blank Facebook profile under Isabel W. Coleman and started combing through any connections I could trace. It was almost wiped clean, but I checked the photo she'd uploaded, the one from 2020 where she had red hair and a nose piercing. In the comments, someone had tagged her. At Whitaker May, "You look good, Izzy." That name, May Whitaker, stood out immediately. Same last name as Jason. I clicked. May's page was public. Her bio said, "Missing you always, Jay, hashtag justice for Jason." Pinned post from last year. A photo of a young man with short brown hair and a goofy smile. Captioned, "You didn't vanish. You were erased. I'll never stop. Jason." I scrolled through old posts. December 2020. She had written a long one after he went missing. It described how he'd told her he was breaking off his engagement, that he didn't feel safe anymore, that something about Izzy was scaring him. Then silence. She mentioned he'd left the apartment they shared but never made it to their parents' house. His car was found near a hiking trail. No sign of him since. Reading that post felt like having my lungs slowly squeezed. My girlfriend hadn't just changed her name. She'd erased an entire version of her life. And in the middle of it all, there was a man who vanished without a trace. I didn't know what to believe anymore. Had Samantha run from an abusive ex? Or was she the one being run from? At that point, I realized I couldn't keep this to myself. I needed to talk to someone who knew Jason. Someone who wouldn't dismiss what I had. So I wrote to May. It was a short message. No accusations. Just facts. "Hi. I don't know how to say this, but I believe I'm currently in a relationship with someone who used to go by the name Isabel Coleman. She now goes by Samantha Wells. I found a legal name change letter from Arizona DMV. I also found a receipt from a hotel in Tempe dated just before she moved to Colorado. I think she may have been with Jason, and I think she may know more than she said." I expected silence, or rage, or to be blocked. Instead, May replied 2 hours later. Her response was one sentence. "Can we talk?" We spoke over Zoom the next day. I kept my camera off. She didn't. She looked exhausted, not just from sleep deprivation, but from grief that had sunk into her bones. "Jason was my older brother," she said. "He was always kind. Too kind. And Isabel, I tried to like her. I really did. But she had this way of rewriting things, making everything sound like it was someone else's fault." I told her about the name change letter, the Arizona receipt, the draft email addressed to Jason. She nodded, slowly. I knew she ran. I just didn't think I'd ever see proof. "You're the first person to ever contact me about her." I asked her about the day Jason disappeared. What he said. What he looked like. May's voice cracked. "He was scared. He told me. If something happens, it's not an accident." And then, after a pause, "I think she heard him. I don't know how, but I think she did. I promised to send her everything I had. Screenshots, scans, dates. She gave me her number. Said she'd forward it to the Flagstaff PD. I didn't ask if she thought they'd reopen the case. I didn't want to get my hopes up. But now it was no longer just a feeling in my gut. I had confirmation. From someone who had lived the other side of Samantha's past. That night, I went home. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to see her. I needed to look her in the eyes and figure out what part of her was real. She was in the kitchen when I came in, chopping vegetables. She turned, smiled. "Hey, stranger. You didn't text last night." I needed space. "Trouble at work?" "No. Personal stuff." She frowned. "Is this about the name thing?" I froze. She wiped her hands and leaned against the counter. "I saw you took the DMV letter out of the trash." I didn't say anything. "You think I'm lying to you. I know you're lying to me." She walked past me and sat on the couch. "Then let me explain. All of it. And then you can leave. Or stay. I won't stop you." I sat across from her. She started talking. She told me Jason had been obsessive, controlling, that he tracked her phone, that he got physical during arguments, that the police wouldn't believe her, that when she tried to leave, he threatened to ruin her life. She said she waited until he left for a work trip, then packed everything and disappeared. She chose a new name, moved to a new state, cut ties, got a new phone number, got therapy. I didn't kill him, she said. If that's what you think. I just escaped. I watched her carefully. Her voice didn't shake. Her hands didn't twitch. She didn't cry. She just stared at me, like she was trying to memorize my reaction. I asked, why not tell me this earlier? She shrugged. Because people don't believe women who run. They call them liars. Crazy. Dangerous. And Jason. He was dangerous. I swear to you. But he's probably living somewhere under a new name too. I didn't know what to believe. If she was telling the truth, then she'd been hiding out of fear. If she was lying, then I'd been living with someone who possibly made a man disappear. I left again. She didn't stop me. Didn't text. And then, 2 days later, I got a call. It was May. Her voice was shaking. She's gone. What? She's gone, Daniel. I sent everything to the Flagstaff detective on Jason's case. He reached out to your local department. They were planning to contact her. But when they got to your apartment, she was already gone. Took her things. Left a note that said, you had your version. Now let me have mine. I sat on the floor in silence. The woman I had shared my life with had vanished. Again, the apartment felt different after that. Colder. Emptier. The couch still had the faint smell of her perfume. Her hairbrush was gone, but her toothbrush was still in the holder. And taped to the bathroom mirror was a small square of paper I hadn't noticed before. A sticky note. For words. All capital letters. You shouldn't have looked. I didn't touch the sticky note for a full hour. I just stood there, staring at it. You shouldn't have looked. The handwriting was unmistakably hers. Looped, Y. Sharp, T. That odd habit of capitalizing only the first word unless she was angry. But this wasn't a note left in anger. It wasn't scratched out or rushed. It was calm. Controlled. A final signature from someone who'd slipped out through the back of her own life again. I sat on the edge of the tub, phone in hand, unsure who to call. The police? Marcus? May? I told myself that once I found the truth, I'd feel relief. Or even some twisted sense of justice. Instead, I felt watched. The closet was half empty. A few hangers swung slowly like someone had moved fast. The drawer where she kept her jewelry was open, but her cheaper stuff was still there. Rings from thrift stores, earrings she never wore. Only the small velvet box was missing. Her passport? Gone. Birth certificate? Not that I'd seen one anyway. Her laptop? Left behind, but the hard drive had been removed. The fridge was still full. Her oat milk, her prepped lunches for the week. It was as if she'd vanished halfway through her routine, just long enough to take only what couldn't be tracked. I finally called Marcus, the PI. She's gone, I told him. Disappeared. Took a few things. Left a note. He paused for a moment. Did she take cash? Don't think so. Then she's moving fast. Probably has a second identity ready. Is that even possible? That easy. He exhaled slowly. Daniel, she's done this before. The next day, I received a package. No return address. But I recognized the handwriting immediately. It was hers again. A padded envelope, thin. Inside was a photograph. Glossy. Clean. Taken in daylight. It was a man's face. Brown hair. Narrow chin. Faint scar above his eyebrow. He looked ordinary. Taped to the bottom corner of the photo was a torn strip of paper. On it, she'd written in pen. You were right. This is Jason. Now let it go. I didn't understand what she meant. Was this a confession? An admission that he was dead? Or alive? Was she threatening me, warning me, or trying to grant closure? I scanned the photo. There was a faint watermark on the bottom. A date, November 4th, 2021. And next to it, an airport code, PHX, Phoenix Sky Harbor. Jason might have been alive. Or she'd just sent me a photo from 2 years ago to shut me up. I called May. I told her what I received. She asked me to send her the photo. When she opened it, there was a long silence on the other end of the call. That's him, she whispered. That's Jason. But it's from 2021. I know. That's nearly a year after he disappeared. And then she said something that still sticks with me. So he ran, too. May and I agreed not to send the photo to the police. Not yet. There were no timestamps, no metadata. We didn't even know where it was taken, except it had something to do with Phoenix. If Jason was alive, maybe he had his reasons for staying quiet. Maybe Samantha hadn't done anything to him, except what he was trying to do first. But I wasn't ready to forgive. Not her. Not after what she'd taken from me. She had rewritten her past. Twice. Maybe more. And she had used me, my apartment, my address, my trust, to do it again. I felt stupid, but more than that, I felt used. So I went back to her laptop. The hard drive was missing, yes. But she wasn't as careful as she thought. Her Google account was still logged in. I opened Chrome and pulled up her saved passwords. There were 3 accounts. Her public Gmail, her Isabel account, and a third one, t.coleman.87 @ something I hadn't seen before. I opened it. It was full of application emails, job boards, some fake resumes. But buried near the bottom was a draft. Unsent, titled simply, "If they ever find me." The body of the draft read, "You'll hate me for running, but I needed a clean start. Everyone says they would never stay with someone with a past like mine, but they don't know what it's like to live inside it. I didn't kill Jason. I didn't ruin your life, but I know I stained it." She had written it weeks ago. Maybe she thought she'd have to send it. Maybe she thought I'd deserve the truth someday. But it wasn't truth. It was another performance. So I wrote her back. I logged in, using the same draft folder, and typed one line. "You stained nothing. I wiped it clean. The cops know. And so does his family." Then I hit send. I didn't expect a reply. I didn't need one. That message wasn't for her. It was for me. That weekend, I changed the locks, tossed the mattress, switched to a different cell number. May called a few times to update me. The case hadn't reopened officially, but the file was being re-reviewed. They had flagged Isabel's DMV trail. Even without a formal charge, she was now in the system again. She'd find it harder to vanish next time. And she knew it. The last time I saw her handwriting was about a month later. It was on the back of a business card, slid under the doormat of my building's stairwell. Not in front of my door, but at the bottom, on the concrete. The card was blank except for a note in the center. "You win. Just don't follow." That night, I slept like a man who finally understood that winning doesn't always feel good. Sometimes, it just feels finished. And that's the story. If you're still here, that means you're one of us. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I drop new chaos every single day, and trust me, tomorrow's story, it's even worse than this one.